Greetings all, it's Max. We are back. I'm going to go over a news story here quick. Now, kind of made a turning point in the old Americana or Amerikistan or whatever you want to call it. So, we all know that, with the recent, last year or so, year and a half, they kind of been pushing the boundaries of doing things that aren't quite exactly legal. And there was always some holdout that eventually things will work its way through the court system and kind of getting sorted out. That's kind of the hope. Kind of like hoping that Trump is going to come back into office. That sort of hope. I think even Brother Ed the other day, in one of his videos, had commented about some of that and about how things could be working through the court systems and will get straightened out. Well, that ain't going to happen, guys. Just letting y'all know that effectively the government's been taken over enough that it really doesn't matter what the courts say. The legislative executive, the court can make a ruling and they're like, that's great. That's great. You rule that. And then they go ahead and do what they want. For a long time, they sort of have played lip service to what the different courts have to say about this, that, and the other thing. And some state courts, obviously, different states take things a little bit more seriously. But at the federal level, we've entered into a state where it's utter, total fascism, completely. And I'll demonstrate it as I talk about this article here. But now we're into where the court systems, everyone knows that judges are gradually getting bought out and paid for and all this stuff. But when you have blatant constitutional arguments and who is in charge of what and who actually has the authority to do what is kind of the realm of the Supreme Court. And they made a ruling that says, hey, you don't have the power to do what you did. You have no authority in that regard. And then we continue to go ahead and continue doing it. And I am referring to the rent moratoriums where no one has to pay rent and no one can be evicted. All right. Now, what the goal is here with all of this, I talked a lot about this a year and a half ago before any of this stuff happened. Just so I can toot my own little horn a little bit, I said, you guys are never taking the mask off. Okay, they're bringing the masks around again. After they said, if you get your jab, you can take it off. Now they're coming around again and saying, well, even if you got the jab, you got to wear the mask, right? Told you guys. They're going to come around with lockdowns again, too. So, there ain't going to be no crying to the courts, apparently, because they're all on the same team. And you know how widespread this new world order is when you have all these countries all locked down. And all of these people that'll stand up for nonsense. Well, what are people waiting for? You think things are just going to get better by complaining? Or are you going to have to start doing something? Now, I had made the suggestion that perhaps you should limit your reliance on the government. Okay? And if you live in a congested city somewhere, if you have the money to maybe move out a little farther away from that, maybe buy a little extra food. Okay. Now, a year and a half ago, houses were 25 to 30% less. Okay. Food was about 20% less a year and a half ago. Now we're getting into the thick of it where people are starting to figure out that, it's time to go. You know what else is happening? And what the goal is with this rent thing and the rent moratorium. The goal is to shut down all of the small privately owned businesses, mom and pop stores, to funnel everybody into Amazon, funnel everybody into big conglomerate, corporate owned rental developments, and flush out all of the little players that own small apartment complexes. The biggest buyer of new homes is BlackRock, large investment hedge fund firm, and then Grayscale. And you know where you go look up and find out how much your house is worth on Zillow? You can call Zillow right now and sell them your home if you want to, and they'll probably pay above what the market value is. It's all a play to get rid of people's private property and make people more subservient to the state. And there isn't anything you can really do about it except not play that game. Because you can't go cry to the courts, you can't sue anybody, because they don't have to listen. They got the guns. They can make up rules and you can follow them exactly, 100%, line by line, and they could still throw you in jail. What are you going to do? Appeal it? Courts don't care. They make up the rules as they go. The only thing you can do is limit your involvement. Maybe not finance the government so much, and whatever that may mean. Okay? Maybe get some financial independence. Because let me tell you, the only thing you can do to fight this stuff is protect your wealth and protect where your money is. So let's get into this article. CDC announces new eviction ban despite Supreme Court threat. It wasn't a threat. It went through the Supreme Court. And they did deem that the CDC, Center for Disease Control, was the one who issued the moratorium. They don't have any power to do that. That's the legislation. They don't have any power like that. Just like the president does not have the power to make everybody muzzle themselves. And on that note, I want to ask people this, right? As they're going to these jobs who want to try and muzzle you. If your husband or your wife said, no, when you leave the house, you need to wear a mask. If they said that to you, would you take it and put up with it and just do it? No. But when Papa Joe, or your state or your company that you work for or whatever says that, you don't put up a fight. You put on your mask and then just kind of complain about it a bit. Something seem a little off yet? Something seem a little off? And you know, you say, oh, Max, you don't have to deal with it. No, I dealt with it today. You just got to deal with it. These are tough times for everybody. Everybody's in different situations. But you can't just give up your rights and your freedoms and anything without a fight. Not without a little bit of a fight. To try and save a job that the money you're getting paid is losing value by 15% every year. If not, by the end of this year, it'll probably be 20%. The Biden administration on Tuesday announced a new targeted federal eviction ban to replace the old one that expired over the weekend, setting a potential clash with the Supreme Court. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention new ban will apply to counties experiencing substantially high levels of community transmission levels of Corona and last until October 3rd. Now, anybody who watches me is probably somewhat in the know and knows that there is no new cases of anything. You have like one guy, right? My county just went under a masking thing because like 2 people had COVID. Okay? Out of the entire county, like 100,000 people. It's ridiculous. Everyone knows it's ridiculous. Why play along with it? Joe Biden had earlier Tuesday teased the announcement to reporters while cautioning that any call for a moratorium based on the Supreme Court's recent decision is likely to face obstacles. Didn't face any obstacles. So Congress goes in and they ruled 5-4 that the rent moratorium where no one has to pay rent. And by the way, if you're paying rent now, don't be paying rent. Take the money and do something with it. Buy some Bitcoin with it. Take the money you would be spending on rent and do something else with it. Okay? At the very least, don't pay your rent and save the money, even though you're losing to inflation. Save the money and see what happens. It's already been a year of nobody paying rent, right? Do you think people are just all of a sudden going to pay when the moratorium? No, everyone's getting kicked out and BlackRock is going to come in and buy up all those places, which, by the way, you can evict people and get them out of your place if you sell the building, which is what they're hoping for, right? They're hoping for these people who own like apartment buildings with 10 units in them to get sick of not making any money on them and not being able to kick people out, that they sell the building because they can get out of the leases that way. And of course, then there's Zillow, there's BlackRock, there's Grayscale right there to snap them up, give you above market value for them. Why? Because they get 0% interest loans. Grayscale's worth like $30 trillion. They can get as much money as they want. Loaned for free, printed out of thin air from the Federal Reserve to go buy up everybody's private property. So Supreme Court said, this is not legal, completely color of law, that you are doing this with the rent moratorium stuff. You don't have any power, any authority whatsoever to do this. However, because it expires in 2 or 3 days, or like a week, we're just going to leave it alone so you have some time to figure out what you're going to do and put through new legislation or whatever you're going to do. We'll just let it go. They even asked one of the guys why they didn't get rid of it. And he said, well, if we got rid of it, they'd have, we're giving them some time to figure out what they're going to do. Not wishy-washy whatsoever, that no, these guys do not have the authority to do this. This is a legislation, have to pass a law, have to get funding for it, have to do the whole bit. Not just some random appointed guy at the CDC says, oh, no one's got to pay rent anymore. Okay? No one's got to pay rent. Unelected official somewhere. No one knows the name. Some guy at the CDC. So then what happens? Well, as soon as it comes to the date that that's going to expire, the CDC re-ups it, even though they don't have the authority to do it in the first place. So that's it. It's done. Okay? If the Supreme Court, your national news and your federal headlines, no one's upset that the government's not following the Supreme Court anymore. It's no longer a legal government. You understand? There's no longer a legal government. You've got legislative, executive, and judicial branch. If the judicial branch is not even being followed, then it's not a legal system anymore. All right. So, if you're going to go play by rules, understand that there are no rules. Right? There are no rules. You're going to look out for yourself. I'm a price change guy now, right? At the stores. Prices be going up, man. They be going up sometimes twice in a week. All right? Miraculously, Bitcoin is also up by a bit. So, we've been going to, the country has been turning to fascism for about 30 years. And largely that's because of the military-industrial complex and the medical-industrial complex. And here's what happens is because we have this thing called the Freedom of Information Request Forms, we can actually find out what the government is doing because they work for us, right? They work for the people. So what they are doing is all military contracts go through private-owned companies because then they can protect secrets under what's called a trade secret of a corporation, like Hardee's Secret Sauce. Okay? And they've been doing that for a while. But then they wanted to get in the Facebook game. And they want to get in the social engineering game. And now all of that is trade secrets, where the government literally goes and hands Facebook the list of terms that they want their people to delete and not be able to search. Which is funny because, the old COVIDs, being that it's a worldwide pandemic, you'd think, why would you want to censor that from everywhere? Shouldn't that be like the most important thing that people talk about? Oh, no, can't talk about that. You got to take you down off of YouTube. Got to take you down off Facebook. Got to take you down off Twitter. Oh, we can't have you on TikTok unless you're dancing in an empty hospital. Unless you're a nurse dancing in an empty hospital. So the government now is in the propaganda game big time with Facebook. Facebook pretending to be a private company. Well, the terms and conditions, you don't have free speech because it's a private company. The terms and the conditions. No, it's a government agency. Google is a government agency. All these things. One big fascist happy camper network. Now, what is the straw that will break that camel's back? The monetary system, guys. The Great Reset plan? Things are going to get bad, and they're going to reset it. And you're going to think, oh, this is so much better than it was for about 5 years. Until you realize what kind of a system they push it into. And all you people afraid of cryptocurrency, you're basically already using it. You're going to be forced into using the US dollar coin or the Federal Reserve coin or the global coin. And then they're going to tack on some carbon taxes on there, right? Tack on some carbon tax. We'll tax on some globalism tax to go with your state and your federal and your local tax and your gas taxes and all your other taxes. And then we'll tack on a solar system tax that'll go to Elon Musk so we can pretend to fly spaceships to Mars. Or you can look into how to preserve your wealth and stop giving the government their money. Use a different system. El Salvador figured it out. Uruguay is figuring it out. Nigeria is figuring it out. Without any money, these people have no power. None. All of those worthless cops, right? All of those big brother cops who are part of the system and they're happy because they can't get in trouble for anything. All those dirty politicians who are paid off with bribes and all this stuff. If the money they're using is worthless, how much are you going to get one of these guys to do? All the people, the whistleblowers, all the people that keep their mouth shut because they're getting paid off. All that insider trading, all of that stuff. What if the money is essentially worthless? Who's going to start talking? Who's going to come after you when they can't afford to pay the military? Who's going to come after you? Of course, they already want to get rid of the police because they want as much chaos as possible. Which is why I say you should leave major cities. It's going to be an interesting future. But I did not expect, well, of course it is to be expected. But, of course, you always keep your faith in God and have trust in God. But you also do want to use your talents. And you can't wait for God to fix everything. People are put here for a reason. And it's not to sit idly by and sit and complain and bellyache about, how old Dementia Joe can't run a country or whatever. Oh, the Democrats or the LGBTQ, blah, blah, whatever. Doesn't matter. You got some extra food around? You got a place to go? You good with your neighbors? You got a community going? Do you have some wealth? Is it possible to maybe go under the radar a little bit, maybe not be on Facebook so much? Feeding them information about what you are, what your beliefs are, what you say, whether or not you're a dissenter or not, whether or not you'll get on the train easily, or you'll need a little coercion. One of those deals. I don't know. It'll be an interesting time. So far, I've been more or less pretty quiet for a while, and it's because it's kind of pointless. People want to run around like dumb zombies all over the place and not take 2 seconds to put 2 and 2 together and think about anything. And, that's fine. That's fine. So with that, guys, maybe I'll see you in Mexico.